I'm Loren Kling, and this is 5 Things That Changed Your Life. Each episode, I sit down with a special guest and ask them to share 5 stories, events, or experiences that had an impact on their life, like a person who helped them decide a path to take, or a place that completely transformed the way they think. Perhaps it was inspiration from a family road trip or a childhood TV show that helped them to make the person they are today. This week's guests, Ellie Laks, founder, and Jay Weiner, co-founder of The Gentle Barn, a national nonprofit organization set up in 1999 as a safe haven and place of recovery for severely abused animals.
It's just amazing, in every instance, for me in my childhood and for me when I started the Gentle Barn and absolutely now for Jay as he talks about his relationships with animals and every single solitary staff member and volunteer. What I hear over and over and over again is these people with these intentions to come in and help animals, and the result is that the animals save them every time.
Joining me as always is my co-host Alan Ng. And now, here's our conversation with husband and wife, Ellie Laks and Jay Weiner, and 5 things that change their lives. Today, we are here with 2 lovely guests. We're here with Ellie Laks, the founder, and Jay Weiner, the co-founder of The Gentle Barn. How are you both?
Good.
Doing great.
Let's start with, what is The Gentle Barn?
So at The Gentle Barn, we do 2 things. One is we rescue animals that no one else wants. So they're either too old, too sick, too lame, or too scared to be adoptable by other agencies. And we bring them in, we rehabilitate them, get them healthy and happy. If then they can be adopted into their own families, great. And if not, then we give them sanctuary for the rest of their lives. And then when they're ready, they help us with the second part of our mission, which is to help people with the same stories of abuse and neglect. So when the animals are ready, they help us work with at-risk inner city and special needs kids, domestic violence shelters, war veterans, senior centers, really anyone out there that needs some hope and inspiration, and the animals remind them that they matter.
Right. Now, we're not talking about house pets for the most part. These are unique.
Yes, we've got horses, cows, pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, turkeys, peacocks, llamas, dogs, cats, donkeys, parrots, and an emu.
Wow. That's a big farm of animals.
Yeah.
First one that I want to ask about, Jay, you said Mr. Olaf and walking into a supermarket / rotisserie, and Alan and I couldn't figure that out. So, of course, we want to go to that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I had dabbled with being vegetarian before coming to the Gentle Barn, but, it wasn't like a committed thing yet. And this is 16 years ago, I guess. And one of my daughters was volunteering for the Gentle Barn, and I was asked by her to come in and check it out. And I heard about Ellie through her, and I wanted to meet this woman that had this really cool place with these rescued animals, and I just found it to be inspiring, and so I went. And the first experience I had was with this chicken named Mr. Olaf. And Mr. Olaf was this little bantam rooster, so really teeny tiny. And he would, when I'd come in the gate, he would kind of hear my voice, and he would look at me and notice that it was me and run to me right to my feet, and he would peck at my feet until I would pick him up. So I'd pick him up and I'd say hi to him, and oh, you're super cute, and I didn't really connect with the fact that a rooster just ran to me. I just kind of thought that was kind of cool. So the next time I would come back, he would do it again, and I would kind of, that's interesting. Why is he doing this? Does he do it to everybody? And then I would see him just being with me and not really going to other people. And other people could pick him up, but he didn't go running to them. And then the next time and the next time. And I think it was like on the 4th time or the 5th time that I had come, I think it was the 4th or 5th time that I was there, we couldn't find him. And he had made this impression on me, that I started connecting, that chicken just ran to me like a dog would have run to me. Wow, that's really important, and I kind of thought about it a little bit, but not too much. And then when he was missing, though, I had this like instant loss, like this instant thought of, oh my God, where is he? And we searched for him and we searched for him. And the thing about him is he was really friendly and he was really good friends with a pig. And he was a 1,200-pound pig. And he used to go and sleep on him at night. And unfortunately, the night before, an accident happened where he slipped off of him and he got crushed by the pig. And so eventually we found him, and he was gone. And I had this loss and this huge wave of emotions come over me, and to the point where Ellie thought I was a little bit crazy because I expressed it through a little bit of anger instead of sorrow. And she was like, what's with this guy, and why is he so affected by this in that way? And anyway, to make a long story short, going to the rotisserie side of it, I then didn't really connect with why it affected me so much and what was going on for me, but I had to go to the market to pick up food. And when I went into the market, I was standing, sort of in the prepared food area in the market, and the chicken rotisserie started going. And I was standing there like kind of mesmerized, staring at this rotisserie of chickens going around, and there were, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 across, and then about 20 things. So there were a lot of them on there,
right?
And it dawned on me, that's Mr. Olaf. That's this chicken that's just like a dog, and people are eating him. And it was this moment where I realized that I'm vegan. I can't ever eat them. That I can't ever do it again. I can't ever eat chicken again. And, it was just this really special moment where, I kind of lost it in the market, which was a little embarrassing, but it really was so profound and such an incredible changing moment for me.
That's the amazing thing is when I'm still trying to figure out what veganism means to me, but when I think of it, I think of, well, we love our cats and our dogs and then our parakeets and we reach out and we have animals that we love. We would never in a million years think of eating them, yet we don't think the same way with cows, chickens, and pigs. Yet we can go and they can love us just as much as a dog or a cat. So there is a disconnect somewhere, and I think it's just been over the years,
and
over
I
time.
think that's what the Gentle Barn really brings to the table. We're really trying to illustrate that they're the same, that they feel the same, that they think the same, that they lose and feel lost the same, that they taste things the same way we taste things. They're curious the way that we're curious. I think that those things are the things that we want people to realize when they're at the Gentle Barn and why we do what we do.
Yeah. Scout, the first Gentle Barn rescue. Do you want to talk about that? Was that involving both of you?
Scout wasn't the first Gentle Barn rescue. Scout was my first Gentle Barn rescue. As a fact, Mary, a goat, was the Gentle Barn's first rescue that Ellie rescued before I was there. But Scout, I started getting more involved, with the Gentle Barn. I wanted to learn more, see more. I saw Ellie, in this, backyard kind of setup, and I'm an entrepreneurial guy. I want to build things, grow things, make them more and bigger, and so that's what I was seeing when I was there. This is amazing, but look what it could be, and all that kind of stuff, and so I just wanted to get in on it. And my childhood was all about horses and some cows, but really about horses and dogs, and but the horse thing, to me, to save a horse, to rescue a horse from my childhood with the number of times that horses rescued me, would have been just the most amazing thing ever. And so Ellie and I had talked about a facility that was kind of a decrepit facility that had animals, and she had known that there was sort of an offshoot property that they had where they kind of put the horses that were, or animals that were in bad way, because they didn't want to pay for vet care and things like that. So I had kind of always had that in the back of my mind and kind of went out once in a while to see if I could find it. And one day while I was out, I was driving down Tampa, I think it was, right?
In the valley.
In the valley, and driving down this major street, and off to the right, I kind of saw out of the corner of my eye that there was a horse laying down in a big open field that was between like a 7-Eleven and a house. So it was, odd that there would be a horse in that kind of a property. And so I went over to investigate and see, why this horse was laying down, and it was also raining. And so that was just odd. And I kind of went over the fence and went to go touch the horse to see if the horse was alive even. And he jumped up and I jumped back. And I don't know if he scared me more than I scared him or vice versa. But it was a terrifying moment where he just bounced up and looked at me like, "What are you doing in here?" And but I very quickly realized how malnourished he was, and how uncared for he was, and how long his hooves were, and just what sort of poor condition he was in. And it was heartbreaking to see him in the condition he was in. And it didn't matter to me who he was, what he was, how big or small or any of that, just that he was so poorly cared for. So I went to try and find the owner of this horse that was out of nowhere, and couldn't find anybody originally, and then finally found somebody who said, "Yeah, that's my horse, leave me alone, don't bother me." And I was saying, you're going to get in trouble for a horse being like this, especially on a main street. You have to do something to help him. I mean, you can't just leave him like that. And they didn't want to have anything to do with me, but anyway, I gave him my card and I said, I'd like to take this horse, and they were like kind of laughing at me. Finally, they got cited by animal control, not even by me, but just somebody turned them in. It was like the next day, and they ended up reaching out to me and saying, "Were you serious when you said you would take the horse?" Because they're saying I have to do all this stuff and I can't afford it. And so we went back there, and they said, I said, "Yeah, I mean, I'll take him, of course," or her at the time.
Right.
And so that's the funny part. So I went over and I said, "Well, what's the horse's name?" And they said, "Well, the horse's name is Liz." And I said, "Oh, okay." And they said, "It's a female Arabian horse." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll take her." And so I had my trailer, and I went and got her, and I realized very quickly by looking under the hood that that was not accurate. And so anyway, I didn't want to ask any questions. I just wanted to get the horse out of there. We brought the horse home. And home was to actually a boarding facility right the back side of the Gentle Barn, because I didn't want to tax the Gentle Barn with it, and I wanted to try and heal this horse. And so I got him to a boarding facility and really did a once over on him and looked at him very closely and realized he was branded. And so I went and looked up the brand and was able to connect with the original place that had marked him.
Right. And
he turned out to be this Olympic level, $500,000 valued show horse that the owner had passed away and sent to auction, and ended up in this horrible backyard situation.
How did knowing the horse was quote unquote famous change your mindset?
It made me really see that you can't judge a book by its cover. It really made me see that he was misunderstood and that he had so much potential. So I started working with him, and I was going through a really hard time in my life. I was going through divorce, and I needed to have a purpose. The business that I was working for had gone under, not my own business, but another one I was working for. And it was just a dark time for me. And connecting with the Gentle Barn and connecting with this horse was a real light in that moment. And so I started exercising with him and walking him every day, and got his feet trimmed and started feeding him properly, dewormed him, did all the things that you would do to help an animal out of a situation like that. But at the same time, he was healing me.
Were you both married at the time?
No, I had just gone through
a divorce,
and actually Ellie was going through hers. And we hadn't really connected that way yet.
So, Ellie, for you, what was it like to have this guy want to take on rescuing a horse? I mean, did you know Jay well enough to trust that somebody was on board with you, or were you questioning why he was loving this horse? Like, why was he loving Mr. Olaf so much? Why would
No, at this point, Jay and I didn't know each other very well. I mean, he was just some volunteer that came once a week, and I was happy to have the help, but I didn't know much about him. And then he told me about this horse that he rescued, and I just simply said, I'm here if you need any advice or any support. And he would kind of give me updates about how him and Scout were doing, and I was very pleased that Scout had the help and that Jay was like, obviously seemed like a hero. But other than that, I wasn't very involved with it. But it was actually Scout that brought Jay and I together. Because Scout...
That was where we were going with that one.
Yeah, that was the thing what was the moment that brought you to just from being a volunteer and somebody running the business?
So once Jay had rehabilitated Scout and Scout was healthy and the perfect weight and his coat was shiny and he was strong again, Scout wanted to go out for walks and for rides. And so Jay would take him out and Scout would head straight to my house. And he would literally take Jay to my front yard and just stare in the window.
Like the process that happened though was like I was walking him and trying to get him back to that health.
Right.
And he would just be bareback and we'd be out there with the lead rope and I'd be walking him and he would be nudging me to ride him. And because he wanted to go faster, he was feeling good and he wanted to do it. And I didn't want to do that to him. I just wanted to walk with him, but he kept pushing to do that. And then I would say, so do you want me to get on you? And he would nudge on like my leg. And so I would get on him and he would ride me straight to her window.
And me and my husband were kind of going through a divorce and things were kind of very tense at home. And my ex-husband at the time would be like, your boyfriend's here.
On his steed.
And I'd go out to the front yard and there was Jay on this horse. And I'm like, hi. And he'd be like, Scout wanted to see you apparently. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'll go grab my little pony Katie and let's go for a walk around the neighborhood. So I would grab Katie, who was a little pony I was rehabilitating at the same time. And we would go for walks around the neighborhood. And that's how we got to know each other. And a year later, fall in love.
Wow.
Yeah, those were special times. It was a lot more simple then. For sure.
I mean, so you were healing an animal and healing each other, and the Gentle Barn today healing other people. So
yeah, definitely full circle.
Yeah,
definitely. And Ellie had it more spelled out. Ellie kind of had it more spelled out from her childhood. That she had dreamed of opening something like this. I knew that I wanted to do something connected to animals, but not as clearly as Ellie did.
Right.
So connecting with the Gentle Barn and connecting in this way, it was so life fulfilling, because it really brought, definition to the thoughts, Yeah. It was like a physical act to the thinking that I had. So, it was her, that came up with the concept, but it resonated so clearly. It made so much sense.
Right.
And that moment that you're talking about was a pivotal moment because, the feelings that you get in rescuing an animal like that are just amazing. And then being able to have a before and an after is like ridiculous. But then to be able to develop a relationship with someone who's like-minded and who understands what animals can do for you was so meaningful, so deep.
Yeah, that is deep. So Ellie, you've told the story many times about Mary the goat, and it's also in the book you wrote. But do you want to just briefly talk about that so we have an idea of how, for you, the idea of rescuing animals?
Sure. The Gentle Barn was my dream since I was 7, but I was busy procrastinating because I didn't have land and I didn't have money and I didn't know how to start a 501c3. So it was really Mary the goat that set me on my life's path. I was procrastinating and kind of lost, and I was driving down the street in the valley and saw a petting zoo I'd never seen before and went in just to be nosy. And there were so much suffering there. There was just so much suffering there, and I was sick to my stomach and couldn't wait to get out of there. So I was running for the exit, and blocking the door was this very, very old goat that looked like she was about to drop dead any second. And she was in my way, so I looked at her, and she looked at me right in the eyes, and she said, "Please help me. Please, please, can you help me?" And she stopped me in my tracks. And I mean, I'm just not a person. If somebody's going to ask me for help, I'm going to find a way to help them. I'm not going to turn my back on them. It's just not how I'm wired. So I was sitting there going, how do I help this goat? And I lived in a little house with a 1/2-acre backyard at the time. And I thought, well, I guess I could bring home a goat. So I said, yes, I'm going to help you. I'll be right back. And I went to find the owner and I said, hey, can I have that goat? And she said, no. And I said, well, can I buy her? And she said, no. And I said, well, I'm going to stay here till you say yes, because you know as well as I do that goat's going to die if I leave her here. I stayed there for 12 days. And on the 13th day, the lady came up to me and said, lady, take this goat and get the heck out of here. And so I was able to bring Mary home. And I found a mobile vet to come out and help me remove her horrible looking tumors and trim her overgrown toenails and teach me how to feed her and care for her. And a few months later, she was bouncing around the backyard as happy as can be. And it was the greatest feeling I have ever known, because when I was a child, numerous times I would try to rescue animals when I was and bring them home. And my parents were always get rid of them. And so here was a chance to really save somebody, to not be interfered, to not have anybody stop me, and be able to see it through to the end. And I was just absolutely elated that I saved a life. And she in turn, so I was so excited that I ended up going back to this petting zoo many, many more times and saying, look, I know that you have other animals that are suffering here. No questions asked. I'll take them off your hands. And she knew better than to say no to me by this point. So she was like, fine. And she gave me all her sick and decrepit and injured animals. And I brought them all home and fixed them all one by one. And then a few months later, I looked out my backyard that was now full of animals and was like, holy cow, I just started my dream. So that's how the Gentle Barn got started 18 years ago. And it's just amazing, in every instance, for me in my childhood, and for me when I started the Gentle Barn, and absolutely now for Jay as he talks about his relationships with animals, and every single solitary staff member and volunteer, what I hear over and over and over again is these people with these intentions to come in and help animals, and the result is that the animals save them every time.
Hey everybody, it's Loren. Just wanted to break into the conversation real quick to let you know about some events going on right now at the Gentle Barn. First off, they have 2 locations that you can actually go visit. One of them is 30 minutes north of Los Angeles in Santa Clarita, California, and the other one is in Knoxville, Tennessee. They're open to the public once a week for guests to hug the cows, give the pigs tummy rubs, cuddle the turkeys, which I just did on a recent trip, feed the horses, and hold the chickens, all while learning the animals' stories of resilience. For ticket information and reservations, go to gentlebarn.org. That's gentlebarn.org. And when you visit the Los Angeles location, say hi to Mrs. Kling, who's always there to welcome guests. Also, you may have heard about 6 cows who successfully escaped from a slaughterhouse in St. Louis. The Gentle Barn has stepped in to rescue and care for these 6 cows. The story of the escape was caught on local news, which quickly gained national attention, and many online fundraising efforts to pay for the freedom of these animals. Ellie and Jay want to say thank you so much to all of the people who worked hard to raise awareness and funds to help save these amazing cows. They are now safe, but they need a lot of additional medical care. You can donate at gofundme.com/St. Louis Cows. That's gofundme.com/STLOUISCOWS. You can also go to the Gentle Barn, where there's a link there, and also on our website, 5thingspodcast.com. Now, back to the conversation. One of the things you said was learning to embrace your gifts, that you've always been able to talk to animals, but you've shunned the gift as you wanted to be normal. But when a pregnant cat taught you a lesson and got you to listen.
When did you think you wanted to be normal? When was that?
Well, I've
Was
given
that was
up
like
on it already.
5 or 6 years old?
Sounds like it was more of a dream than a reality.
Now you get it.
Thanks, Alan.
But no, when I was a child, animals talked to me, and I thought it was the most normal thing in the whole world. I mean, I literally remember at 7 years old playing in my room with my Barbie dolls, and all of a sudden I got this message like, oh, someone needs me. And I stopped playing and I walked out of my room and through the house and out the front door and down the street and to the right and down the hill near the lake. And under the tree, I was like, oh, there you are. I was sent to find you. And I picked her up. She was a little baby bird that fell out of her nest, and I brought her home and I raised her till she could fly away. I thought everyone can do that. And then when I got to elementary school and then high school, and people started teasing me and making fun of me, and if I lost an animal and I would cry, they would make fun of me. And I started realizing, like, not everybody has this gift, not everybody is connected, and if I want to fit in, I need to stop talking about my love and obsession with animals, and I need to stop sharing my heart with people, because it hurt when they made fun of me. And so I kind of shut it down. And it was really interesting because the minute I started shutting it down in high school, that's when I really got lost. I mean, my life took a dangerous turn with promiscuity with boys and alcohol and drugs, and I really got lost. And I remember as a young adult, I lived in Israel at this time, and there were a lot of street cats there. And one of the street cats kind of adopted me, and I would feed her and give her water, and I ended up taming her up, and she ended up living in my house, but kind of coming and going because she was still wild. And this was a long time ago. I mean, I didn't know about spay or neuter back then. I just knew, like, if someone was hungry, I was going to feed her. But she ended up getting pregnant, and I took her to the vet, and the vet said, yeah, she's due in a couple weeks. And I said, well, anything special I need to know? Anything special I need to do? And he was like, no, just do the same thing. She's, not going to let you know. She's just going to have her babies. So just do your usual thing. And so I said, okay. Well, that night I went to sleep over a friend's house, and I woke up in the middle of the night in a dead sleep, and I was panicking, like, oh my God, Kitten Mitten needs me. And then my brain said, you idiot, go back to sleep. What are you talking about? The doctor said she wasn't due for a couple of weeks. She doesn't need you. But this anxiety in me, she needs me. And I argued with myself all night long. My brain telling me to be quiet and go back to sleep. My instincts screaming at me that she needed me. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, I couldn't take it anymore, and I went home. And sure enough, she had given birth and needed me. She needed to get in the house. And I felt like such a failure. I wasn't there for her, and I didn't listen to my instincts. And I remember saying, I will never shun my gift again. When an animal speaks to me, I will forever, from this moment on, listen.
Wow.
And because since that moment I've embraced that gift, it's gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And it's really helped us in our rescue work understand from the animal's perspective what they're going through and what they need.
Right.
It's really cool, by the way. I mean, because we'll have moments, and I'm pretty skeptical.
Right.
If I don't see things for myself, I have a hard time believing in them. And so watching those things happen with Ellie, I don't know if I can sit there and explain it, but I see it happen. So
you believe it even though you can't feel it yourself.
I mean, well, no, I don't know, but we go out to have to wrangle a cow, for example, that has horns or whatever, and you need to be a little bit more on the protection side and making sure nobody gets hurt and whatever. And we're coming up with this whole plan on how to wrangle the cow and do it safely. And Ellie says, well, let me just talk to her. Maybe she'll walk in the trailer. And she closes her eyes. She tries, she kind of connects with the animal, and the cow walks onto the trailer, and would the cow have walked onto the trailer anyway? I don't know. But all I can tell you is that she said she was going to talk to that cow, and that cow walked onto that trailer. That's what I know. And I've seen that happen I countless times. We've lost animals. Animals have flown out of the, like we had a parrot that was in the house that just for some way got out the front door by accident and caught the wind and was like, whew, was gone. And we spent hours looking for the bird and, just physically like looking around.
Right.
And finally Ellie said, you know what? I'm going to try and connect and see if I can find her. She closes her eyes and she says, she's in that tree over there. And I'm like, okay, we looked in that tree. She's like, I'm telling you, she's in that tree over there. And we go over there. She's in the tree. It's like things like that. So I've experienced it with her.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
I'm curious, for all the people that have come to visit the Gentle Barn, and you're open on Sundays, we'll talk about that more. You're open to the public. Have you come across these stories from other people or especially children? Because aren't children, their minds are more open to these sort of things?
Yeah, I haven't met people that talk about hearing animals necessarily, but you're absolutely right. I mean, children are so much more connected. We just hosted a preschool field trip today before you got here. And I mean, these kids were so open and so alive and so receptive, and they instantly connected with the animals, and the animals instantly connected to them. It was a beautiful thing. And sadly, we live in a society that intuition and empathy and leading with your feelings and listening to your gut instinct and knowing that there's something more than just us, just this life. There's something before it. There's something after it, that we're all connected. We're all one. Those are things that are not taught in our society or practiced. So by the time you hit a certain age, it's kind of taught out of you. And so the Gentle Barn, we're doing as much as we possibly can to instill that in children and maintain that connection so that they remain open and they remain connected and they remain wise and intuitive, so that they can grow up and feel the pain of the planet, and they can grow up and feel what animals are going through, so they can grow up to do something about it and to stay connected to it. Because the apathy and the disconnect is what's ultimately causing this planet's peril. So we must stay connected to save it.
Right. And I think connecting with an animal is, even for us who have cats and dogs at home, we connect in different ways. They're our best friends. And so what you're saying may not connect with somebody to an animal they come and visit, but the same story is being told through their own personal connections with a childhood pet or a pet that they've adopted or rescued as an adult.
I don't think that the message is necessarily to. We don't talk to a kid about, hey, you really need to focus on connecting with your.
Oh, right.
We talk to a kid like, here's this animal's story. This story matches your story. Look, this animal has feelings like you have feelings. Really making sure that they stay in the place where a kid isn't tarnished by what society plagues us with. So this animal's for meat. This animal, you don't have this animal as a pet because that's a cow, is something that the industry puts on us.
Right.
That's not something that a child would think. A child would think, look at that cute little cuddly calf, It wouldn't think, but I can't be near that calf because he's going to become meat. We don't need to, so we're trying to strip them away from what anybody else's beliefs are and just allowing them to make their own.
Got it.
Also, we try to learn this concept that animals talk and animals think and animals have preferences. Because that's another thing that's taught in our society, that animals have no souls and animals have no feelings and they're property and they're enslaved and we can do whatever we want with them, right? Mm-hmm. And so when people typically come to the Gentle Barn for the first time, they're looking at farm animals that have been objectified. And so the things that we talk about with children and adults alike is this concept that they have language. It's just called body language. And they have the same feelings and emotions that we do. And sometimes they want to be pet and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they're learning to trust humans and sometimes they've already recovered. But they have needs and wants and feelings and thoughts just like we do. And we talk about listening to them. And we also talk about what we do with our own body language so that they can listen to us. And so once you put that conversation on the table, then people are a lot more reverent and a lot more thoughtful and conscientious with animals because it's been introduced like, well, does that animal want me to pet them? Or does that animal saying, no, thank you? And so now they're listening and they're communicating with their own body language. And now we've blurred those lines of, oh, this animal's smart, this animal's dumb, this animal we eat, this animal we cuddle. Now we've blurred those lines to say, no matter what we look like, we all are the same on the inside. And those seeds, when planted, result in human beings that think more, love more, care more, are more conscious.
Right. And part of what you do here is you rehabilitate the animals so that they can love again, but then you bring in people and rehabilitate the people. Can you talk about those kind of people? Who comes in and what are they learning when they come here?
Well, we do school field trips in the morning, so it's kind of like what we were just talking about,
right.
Like introducing the awareness of animals. But in the afternoons, we work with at-risk, inner-city, and special needs kids primarily, but we also work with adults as well. And so these are typically people that don't respond to traditional therapy because they've already learned that people are not to be trusted. So they've been hurt by people. So they're not readily open to talking about their feelings, being vulnerable. They don't want to share their experiences with another human being. So this population, what are you going to do? If they won't talk, then the options, if they're children, are to kind of keep them on medication so we can get them under control or in jail. But what else are you going to do if they're not going to talk and if they're not going to trust their therapists? So there's so many kids out there that really don't have another option. So those are specifically the kids that we work with. And so when we approach an agency, whether it be a drug and alcohol rehab center, a probation camp, an inner city school, a foster agency, we ask them to please identify the part of their population that does not respond to traditional therapy. And it's those children that come here, because instead of trying to talk to them and get them to open up when they don't want to, we don't need to do that. We can bring them to the Gentle Barn and just talk about the animals that have their same stories. And so I'm not talking directly to them, and I'm not talking directly about them. I'm talking about an animal. But all of a sudden, they're understanding that that animal has the exact same story, and that animal's been through the same thing. And all of a sudden, they realize they're not alone against the world. There's some other living being that has been through what they've been through. And now all of a sudden, they're realizing if that animal has learned to trust and to forgive and to love again, then that person can too. And so it gives them hope for the first time. And then they're vulnerable, and then they open up, and then they want to talk about what they've been through. And now they can go back to their therapists, and now they're talking, and now they're getting somewhere. So it's kind of like an opening place for them to start talking about themselves and healing.
Wow.
Is this style of therapy something you discovered or someone told you about? Or
No.
I told her.
you told her?
I told her.
It's all on you.
It's all me.
No, I was saved by animals when I was a child. I was lonely and misunderstood and didn't want to be here, and it was always animals that saved me in my darkest times. So I had a very profound personal understanding of how healing animals could be. And so from the time I was 7, my dream was to have a big place full of animals and to show the world how beautiful they were, but at the same time let those animals help me heal all the lonely people of the world. So it's kind of a concept that I dreamed of since I was 7. And when I opened the Gentle Barn, I didn't know if it was a good idea or a bad idea.
It's kind of been a blessing and a curse, right? Bringing people in, even when we bring in volunteers and things like that, it's a volunteer's purpose is to come in and support the organization, to do well for the organization. Sure, if they benefit from it, then that's wonderful, but that's not our focus as a volunteer.
Right.
You're coming in as part of the program, well, okay, we get it. We're here to help you. But if you come in to help us, we need to really focus on that. And we had a hard time with that. As a matter of fact, I think that was one of the things that Ellie had written down, was that we really had to identify the difference between a person who's coming in for help from us as opposed to them coming in to help us.
Let's talk about that. Then let's explore this issue that came up, if you guys want to talk about it.
Well, when I started the Gentle Barn, and then Jay came in and we joined forces and we moved from my little half-acre backyard to the Santa Clarita location where we are now, I was very naive. I really wanted to help people. And so when wonderful people came in that were healthy and capable and productive, we would be like, oh, great, you could be a volunteer. That would be wonderful. But when broken people came in and it was obvious that they were broken, instead of saying, no, thank you, I would be like, oh, they're probably not going to be a very good volunteer, but let's have them come in anyway because the Gentle Barn will be so good for them. It'll heal them. It'll fill them up. It'll nurture them. And so I think that that's very, lovely and innocent and Pollyanna, but I don't think it's practical because unfortunately what ended up happening was those broken people came in and from the inside out almost broke us. I think that there are two different kinds of people in the world. I think there are people who see the positive and good in everything and everyone, and they want to help and love and be productive and be giving. And then there's the other kind of person that's broken and they see the misery and the pain in everything and everyone, and they kind of want to destroy everything that they're in front of. And God bless them and they need help. And if they came in as kind of part of our program, we would absolutely help them. But as part of our staff and as part of our volunteers, that's where it kind of didn't work. And that's where we allowed a bunch of broken people to come in. And it really just, I wanted to heal them, but they ended up almost destroying us.
You can't save
doesn't
everybody.
It's a misery loves company kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, right. But it's like you can't save everyone. You also can't save everything or every soul, right?
And I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But I would say though that I think it's more of having ownership of realizing what that person's doing there. So could we have helped those people? Absolutely. We could have invited them into our program. But instead of realizing that and doing that, we thought that they could just heal through their interactions. You know what I mean? So could we have helped them? Sure. But we would have done it in a therapeutic way instead of in a volunteering way.
But, I did put that on my list of things that changed my life because prior to that, I was meditating, I was visualizing, I was praying, I was journaling about going national. We wanted to go national so bad, and it just wasn't happening fast enough. And this experience with those kinds of people really led us to have very effective intake procedures with volunteers, screening and training processes, HR processes that work so well now and are so efficient that now we are going national. So this horrible, horrible thing that was very painful in the moment those people ended up being our greatest teachers, and that experience ended up being what prepared us to go national. So I am, in the end of things, very grateful.
By the way, you are national.
Yes, I am.
You're not going national.
Well, I'm still going.
How are you national?
Well, we have a gentle barn in California,
Right.
and we have a gentle barn in Tennessee. We're working on an East Coast gentle barn as we speak.
Wow. Did you ever envision? I know you've said one of your goals was a gentle barn in every state.
Yeah, and I don't think that I kind of enunciated that when I was 7,
Right.
I think what I said when I was 7 was I was just going to have this huge, big healing center for animals and for people alike, and it's going to be wonderful. And that was always my vision. But then when I finally started it, and then Jay came in and moved us to a bigger facility, and I saw that my little plan was actually doing something and benefiting animals and benefiting people, and it was this beautiful thing, just as beautiful as I had envisioned.
It's big.
Then I was like, we've got to make this even bigger. We've got to get in front of more people. We've got to open more hearts. We've got to change more minds. We have to heal more kids that have no one. We have to be there for more animals that have nowhere to go. Let's do this in every state so that everyone in America can hug cows and cuddle turkeys and give pigs tummy rubs and look in the eyes of these animals and know for certain that we're all the same. And maybe then we'll have future generations of children that have reverence for Mother Earth and compassion for animals and kindness for other humans. And then maybe we will be closer to having peace on this planet. So it kind of like grew into this really big vision that Jay and I are working on.
My guess is that you're not traveling to Tennessee every week. Is it hard to trust people to fulfill your vision, or is that something easy to come by?
It's a really good question.
Yeah, no, it's been hard. Tennessee was the second location. So I knew that there was going to be a big learning curve in terms of trusting people and managing people and training people. And it's been an interesting process. Jay and I committed to going out to Tennessee once a month for the first year. And then we wanted to see where we were at. And really
staying out there for
the first 3 months.
For you.
Yeah.
Almost 6 months for us combined, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's been an interesting process, but the truth is that at the end of that year, they really were self-sufficient. Now, I talk to our staff there every single day, so they're by no means like not needing me. I'm still guiding them. The person who runs the gentle barn there, she is so wonderful, but animal rehab, animal healing, training, those are all new concepts to her. So I have so much training and teaching to do with her. But talking on the phone and visiting every quarter, it really seems to be working so far. I mean, it's not without bumps along the way, of course. There have been issues and there have been things we've had to resolve. But overall, I'm ecstatic to find that it kind of works, and it gives me a lot more inspiration to know like we can do this in more states.
And the question is on that kind of front is, do you want somebody who knows it all about animals or not. There's kind of like a catch-22 there, because the more they know about animals, the more experience they've had, possibly the more abusive kind of style they've learned, because people aren't usually very compassionate to animals like this, or if you get lucky and you find somebody who's really strong in that suit, is that person going to be good at public speaking? So it's kind of this delicate balance. And with Andrea in Tennessee, it's ended up being sort of a trial by fire kind of thing, because you can't predict what an animal's sickness or whatever's gonna happen, or what that animal's gonna come in looking like, or whatever. You just have to go with it as it comes. And I think I thought that we would be in a more advanced place than that because of our experience. We can answer the questions, but if we're not there and a goat comes in that has a problem, a medical condition that person doesn't know how to deal with, we still have to teach that person, and that whole process still has to happen.
It's amazing how there really is a business here. I'm curious for you guys, do you remember the moment when you realized, oh my gosh, there's love and compassion and healing, but there's also a business to tend
Day one
to.
For me.
What?
You know what? It was interesting for me because I started the Gentle Barn, and the same thing. Like, I could heal animals all day long. It's something that is in me. It's something that I've made of. It's something that I just know how to do. And being with the kids, it was a concept that I dreamed of, but when I put it into action, it worked. But running the website, trying to raise money, doing events, even having a trifold brochure, those are not skills that I'm equipped with. And I remember going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I remember when Jay came to volunteer, he was in the barnyard. And then one day I just, I kind of started chatting with him like, oh, what's your background? Where have you been? What do you do? And he told me all this corporate background. And I'm like, oh my God, will you come with me please to the office?
And I've never left.
And I brought him to the office and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing in here. And he was like, oh, allow me. And he made this shiny, beautiful trifold, and he helped me with the website, and he put a donate button on it, and he helped me with the first fundraiser. And I'm like, I remember like literally tears stinging my eyes because I felt so relieved that I had help in that department.
I'll never forget. There was one day where I had just gotten there, and there was a group coming in, and I think it might have even been the first group I experienced of general public. And they came in, and somebody walked up to Ellie. I don't remember who it was or anything like that, and they said they offered her a donation. And she said, "Oh no, thank you. Thank you so much. You paid to get in. Thank you so much." And I looked at her and I went, "Thank you." You say thank you there. And so, that was kind of how I walked into it. And I didn't know everything there was to know, of course. I had never run a nonprofit organization, and that hurt, because there are differences. But I did know that world, how to help her with those basic, business things, and growing was my, building was my thing.
Right.
So, helping the Gentle Barn grow to what it is today is what I was excited about.
Yeah.
But I definitely miss being out with the animals was important to me. And unfortunately, I've had to sacrifice a lot of that. I do 90% of our physical rescuing, like going out, if we're going out and pulling in an animal out of the slaughterhouse, if we're doing things like that, I do that. But, and I mean, not to say that Ellie hasn't, of course she has, but that's pretty much my gig. But the healing process and the rehabilitation really turns over to Ellie after the basic beginning of that. And I miss that part of it. So even when I go out sometimes and see some of the animals, they sometimes are a little bit scared of me because I've had to do whatever it took to get them on that trailer, to save their life.
Right.
So, it's kind of like you help a mouse, like save a mouse out of a trap and they bite you. It's kind of like that kind of thing.
Right. You go to love your kitty cat, and your kitty cat does not want to be loved at that moment.
Right. Exactly.
Another thing that I want to touch on, you both talked about, are your daughters. That's another thing that the both of you have created, and so I want to I want to hear stories about what you envisioned and what you've learned and how they perceive the Gentle Barn as teens. I would assume they want to do their own thing, not what their parents are doing necessarily.
Well, just to iron out what kids we have. So we have I had the stepdaughter that was volunteering for the Gentle Barn. Her name's Ashley. She's older and lives on her own and is engaged and all those kinds of things and is very independent and still has a relationship with us, but isn't really like in our care.
Right.
Before Ellie and I were together, Ellie had a son. His name's Jesse. And I had a daughter, and her name's Molly. They're very close in age. Jesse's 18, Molly's 19. And then Cheyenne is 11 years old, and we had her together. And so we have 4 kids, technically. One that we still have in our immediate care, who's amazing.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that I was naive in that area as well. I think that I had this fantasy that they would just kind of do the Gentle Barn with me or with us, and we would just all be like these Gentle Barn people, and they would help us rescue the animals and rehabilitate the animals, and they would help me do groups, and like we would just do it together. And as a matter of fact, we homeschooled our 11-year-old daughter because in anticipation of going national, we were all excited that we'll homeschool her. So when we go national and we're traveling all over the place, she'll come with us and it'll be this rich education for her. And while we were waiting to go national, she got involved in dance. And now she's so busy with dance that she won't travel with us. So it's been really difficult because by day, about, anywhere from 12 to 14 hours, I'm working with the Gentle Barn. And then by night, I'm this full-time dance mom, taking her to rehearsals and buying costumes and makeup, and on the weekends going to competitions. And it's been rich and wonderful and fulfilling, but I don't get like an ounce of downtime. It just doesn't exist.
That's why we're so thankful that you're doing this, because I know how busy you both are. So...
Well, I was going to say, so for the thought of you weren't going to have 50 kids and send one to each state to open a Gentle Barn.
Yeah, that's a negative.
The truth of the matter is that as rescuers really shouldn't have kids. I mean, it's such a beautiful burden, but it is a burden, and it's a hardship for the child, and it's a hardship for the cause, because you want to give your all to both. And that's been really difficult for our kids. Cheyenne, our 11-year-old, she's had it a little bit better because we learned a lot along the way. And I think that we were willing to dedicate, and especially Ellie, a lot more time to her. And we had learned from the mistakes of not giving enough time to the older kids. Molly fared pretty well through it. Jessie, though, I think was really hurt by it because she was that was her baby, and during a time where it was the beginning of the Gentle Barn, and so she gave a lot of focus to it, knowing that it was going to hurt him. But now that we know that, we were able to really do it differently for Cheyenne. Cheyenne has also more of a connection because of that with the animals. She's a chicken whisperer. She can literally, if we need to catch a chicken, we send in the the rescue team, Cheyenne, and she'll literally walk up to a chicken and just go, "Gonna pick you up, okay?" And she'll just go pick up a chicken that would run like crazy away from us. And so she's really connected that way, and she that whole experience with her growing up with the horses was really neat too, because how a kid, when they're a baby, they'll kind of shy away from like almost like a cute thing with like someone will come up and meet them and they'll shy away a little bit, and she would do that with the horses. Like, she saw them the same. She saw the horses the same as meeting people. And so when we would say, "This is Caesar the horse," she would get cute and look away the other way. It was really special, that kind of a thing, because it really illustrated that we were telling her that animals are just like us.
Yeah, and I think me dedicating more time for her when she was a baby and really putting her first has allowed her to really encapsulate the spirit and the gentleness of the Gentle Barn. So, I mean, even just the other night, she came home from dance class crying because one of her classmates had stepped on a bug, and she was like trying to stop him, and he did it anyway. And she came home crying because she didn't understand why they had to kill that bug and why they were teasing her for not wanting to kill him. And so, the gentleness and the love and seeing every creature as the same is really in her heart, which is a beautiful thing. to behold.
Wow. And Ellie, one of the things you said on your list was how children has healed your own childhood.
Yeah, I went through a really interesting, not interesting, just amazing journey with my son, Jesse. It's so funny, like, there's a very common question, like, if you had to do it all over again, would you do anything different? And really, my one regret that I'll probably carry to my grave is that I started the Gentle Barn when Jesse was only 1. I think that if I could go back in time and start it all over again, I would have waited till he was at least 5, and I would have been more focused on him. I would have given him my time and my focus, and I would have waited till he was a little bit more independent for me to start my dream. Because starting it when he was a year and having, at first it kind of worked because he was on my backpack and I kind of scheduled feedings around his nap time or when his dad was home. So at first it kind of worked, but as he grew and got more independent and had more ideas of his own, it started conflicting because, and the Gentle Barn got more popular. So with more animals and with more groups and with more structure. And he got older with more ideas of his own, and we kind of went our separate ways. And I think that really caused permanent harm with Jesse. And I didn't know at the time what I had done wrong. I just knew that by the time Jesse was 5, he was so angry, he could have hurt somebody. I mean, he was the angriest little kid I have ever seen. And I didn't understand it. I just knew, like, holy cow, like, do I reserve his spot in a detention center for when he's a teenager? Do I reserve his spot now? And we ended up finding this wonderful healing place that taught me what I had done to hurt Jesse and why he was so angry and why he wouldn't look at me or bond with me. And they taught me how to help him get his angries out and rebond with him and heal him. And he was actually diagnosed with ADD, but instead of putting him on medication, I was able to heal him and get the angries out, and he is no longer ADD. So it was this incredible journey that not only allowed me to heal my son, but allowed me to it allowed me to learn the blind spots I had from when I was a child. I went into motherhood thinking, well, I'm never going to hit him, and I'm never going to let him alone to cry. And I knew all the things I wasn't going to do based on the things that I remembered from my own childhood. But I still had blind spots of the things that happened to me that I didn't remember, that were still inside of me and caused me to do that to him, to not bond with him, to let him with rotating caregivers. And those are the things that hurt him. And so I was able to heal him, but I was able to discover my own childhood and my own wounds and my own blind spots and heal myself at the same time. And not only was it wonderful for the parent-son relationship, and of course for Cheyenne, because I didn't make mistakes with her, but it also allowed me to see children more clearly. And so now in our work with all children that come to the Gentle Barn, I can really, because of that training, I can really see them and what their households look like and their upbringing looks like and their pathologies look like. I know how to talk to them, and I know how to see them and heal them so that their time at the Gentle Barn is the most productive. So it changed me forever.
And the way that looked with Cheyenne was, we were in the hospital and Cheyenne was born, and Ellie looked at me and she said, "Okay, guess you're doing Gentle Barn." And, Ellie popped in and out of it, but I ran the Gentle Barn alone for almost 5 years while she dedicated her life to her. And it was beautiful. I mean, I couldn't imagine anything better for a child than to donate yourself to them that way, and that was hard. That was a hard time.
Now, for you, Ellie, you were able to let go. I'm not saying let go completely, but you were able to let go in your own way to focus on Cheyenne.
No, it was very, very hard. In the beginning, it was easy because she was this little precious angel, and I literally stayed in bed the first 3 months and just looked into her eyes. Oh my God, it was so great. Like, we would wake up and look into each other's eyes. She would nurse, we would sleep, she would poop, I would clean her up, we would look into each other's eyes again. Like, we did that for 3 months. It was so amazing. And the first year was pretty easy. Like, I just wanted to be with her and just melt into her. It was incredible. But then as she got mobile and vocal and started being more independent, I got more restless, and I could feel the urges to want to go out and host a group or see what's happening in the office or be with an animal. And I had to keep reminding myself, Cheyenne comes first. Cheyenne comes first. Let Jay handle it. Let it go. And it was hard. And I remember when Cheyenne was 2 years old, there was a hoarding situation that we were privy to. And there were like 200 plus dogs and 200 farm animals, and a lot of them were left for dead, and they were injuring each other, and there was no food, and it was this horrible situation. And my background before I started the Gentle Barn was in dog rescue. And I wanted to go to that place so bad and save those dogs and train those dogs and orchestrate it. Oh my God, I wanted to go so bad. But Cheyenne was 2. I was not going to leave her with anybody else, and there was no way I was going to bring her into that energy and that chaos. And so I stayed home, and Jay was this hero, and he went and he did this hoarding situation by himself. And I was behind the scenes. I was able to like give my suggestions and help cultivate volunteers and help orchestrate the placement of all those dogs. So I was involved.
You were instrumental.
But I was
in that.
involved from home.
Right.
And it was hard.
You were instrumental in that, though. I mean, that kind of became a style for us because of the rescue work we were doing. I remember that being kind of pivotal for us in that. You know, that you kind of managed and did all of that from the home base, that
for sure,
really
but
cool. It was
Lauren's
hard,
asking if it was hard, and
Yeah,
I
for
remember
sure.
it being
It was
really hard. Like, I wanted to be with Cheyenne, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I also wanted to be there.
I could hear
This
it
is
in
my
her voice,
dream, I finally got my dream, and now I'm at home left out of it. But I just had to redirect my attention. Nope, this is about Cheyenne. Go enjoy your daughter. This time is going to be over too soon. She's going to be older. She won't need you. Focus on Cheyenne.
It sounds like that translated to working now at Tennessee and being able to run that remotely as well.
Same discipline. That's so right. It's the same discipline. Maybe those early years with Cheyenne gave me the way to manage from a distance, and those same skills I'm now using to go national. That is so smart. That's true.
Nice
That's
going,
true.
Alan.
Yeah, nice
They should give me a
going,
degree
Alan.
for
It's
that
true.
He doesn't say too much, but when he says something,
It's
you gotta
good.
pay
That's why I
attention.
keep them. But it's talking about the power of no or not now, which I only learned recently, which is one of the reasons I'm glad I'm 45 years old. I would never want to go back and have to relearn everything I've learned today, because the power to say no and to be wiser is so amazing and so freeing. And the idea that, I can decide what's important for me when it's time to focus on others or myself is amazing.
Learning to say no is something important for us too, as much as it was saying yes to receive, like the money coming in or things like that. We also are approached almost daily, we are approached daily to take in animals, and we want to help people, we want to give them referrals and things like that, but we've had to become experts in saying no. Because we'd have like 5,000 animals now,
Well, also, I think, when we were in our 30s, working 7 days a week, 16-hour days was just no big thing. Like, we could do it all day long. And we did. We worked the first 10 years, we did not have one vacation. We worked for 10 solid. We didn't have lunch breaks. We didn't have days off, and we didn't have vacations for the first 10 years.
And what's changed now?
And you know what? It was okay then. But I'm 48, Jay's 44, and it's starting to take a toll. I'm starting to feel tired at the end of the day. I'm starting to really need my days off. And once in a while, I'm like, oh my God, I need some time off. I'm fried, and I need to reconnect with our children. And so now this work-life balance has become something that's important, because I want to open in another 48 states. I'm not going to be able to do that if I fry myself. We have got to protect ourselves now so that we can keep going for the long haul. And so we are trying really hard to be disciplined. And when people, we'll get like a celebrity, and of course they're only available on our day off. And we, right?
Right.
And it's really hard because we want them to come. But
Alan,
we've
we're
had to,
celebrities.
Yes.
All right. Sorry.
but we've
Not
had
our day
to,
off,
No,
Lauren.
they had time for us. That was the problem.
It's not our day off.
Dee-dee-dee-dee.
but we've had to learn, like, I'm so sorry we're not available that day. And those are hard words to say, but that discipline is going to allow us to work another 50 years. If we don't protect ourselves now, we are going to burn out in the next 5. And then what have we done to go national? We've done nothing.
Right.
So we have to go, we have
All
to be
right. So
disciplined.
tell us the Gentle Barn about.
That's my mission to retire at 50.
Oh, that's your mission? To
There's
retire
always
at 50?
that.
Oh, I'm going
I'm
to keep
just
going
kidding.
until I drop.
All right. Talk about Sundays. How can people contribute and
Learn more
about
visit.
the Gentle Barn and visit?
Well, the Gentle Barn's open here in California on Sundays from 10 to 2. We're open every week. We only close in very intense increment weather. And then Gentle Barn in Tennessee is open on Saturdays, and it's from 11 to 1. And you can get tickets and information and everything online at gentlebarn.org. And very important to select the proper location.
Right.
Because you don't want to buy your Saturday tickets and show up here in California and not be open, because that's our day off. No.
Right.
But anyway, gentlebarn.org, and Sundays are amazing. Sundays are such a great opportunity for people to come out, experience the stories of the animals, and get to interact with them, hug a cow, feed a carrot to a horse, be able to give the pigs tummy rubs. It's really an amazing experience, and we have lots of food options and a gift shop, and it's just a special day. And I would just love to experience it as the public. Like, I would love to come in one time and just pretend like I put a mask on or something and just experience it, because it's really special, and it's informative.
Yeah.
People can hug and brush the cows. They can feed the horses carrots. They can cuddle the turkeys and hold the chickens and pet the goats and sheep. They can give the pigs tummy rubs, and they can hear all their stories of resilience.
I haven't done most of those yet. I mean, I've hugged a cow, but I haven't cuddled and sat on the ground.
I was going to say,
Loren.
But I do. I'm a little nervous, but I don't know why yet. I'm sure there's many reasons to go back to childhood, but that's another episode, Alan.
Yeah. Loren, I got to tell you that cuddling a turkey is one of the most transformative things that will ever happen to you. Please, please come and do it.
Okay.
It will change your life, and it's amazing.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing your story. Alan, any last parting smart words? You had a...
No, I can't wait to bring my daughter. She's going to love this place.
Yeah,
Nice.
Please bring her.
And a shout out to my wife, Rebecca Kling, who is a wonderful host on Sundays.
She does do a fantastic job. As a matter of fact, if you come to the Gentle Barn, she's probably the first person you're going to see.
Yeah.
And Loren, you need to come and hang out over here and spend some time cuddling turkeys, and maybe say goodbye to Adeline.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you again to my co-host, Alan Ng, and this week's guests, Ellie Laks and Jay Weiner, founder and co-founder of the Gentle Barn. You can learn more about the Gentle Barn, get tickets, and make reservations to visit their 2 locations in Santa Clarita, California, and Knoxville, Tennessee at gentlebarn.org. That's GentleBarn.org. Follow them on Twitter at Gentle Barn, and on Instagram and Facebook at The Gentle Barn, TheGentlebarn. Music by My Monthly Date. You can find them at facebook.com/mymonthly-date. Subscribe to 5 Things That Change Your Life on iTunes, and leave us a 5-star review while you're there. We'd really appreciate it. You can also listen and download our show on Google Play, Stitcher, Amazon Alexa, or your favorite podcast service. You can follow us online at 5thingspodcast.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/5thingspodcast, that's FIVE, or on Twitter at 5thingspod, that's FIVEPOD. For 5 Things That Changed Your Life, I'm Loren Kling.